Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Jared at 3Cs. Today we want to give you the confidence to do an oil change and full service on your mower at home. You can save some cost. Kawasaki makes these really cool oil change kits. We're going to jump into this. So all the Ariens and Gravely that we sell, we usually try to do the Kawasaki engines because they make these cool kits. And the Kawasaki motors work really well. So this is going to be full service. Oil, air filter, spark plugs, fuel filter. We'll show you where the battery is to maintain that. So come on in and we'll show you the table. So first and foremost, this is going to be the Kawasaki. I love this. It's an OEM kit made right by Kawasaki, and every kit is going to work with multiple engines. Now, there are different kits, and we're going to show you on your mower where to find what model of engine you have. Really simple, but everything is in here. Spark plugs, fuel filter. Actually, I'll show this right here on the side. So, air filter, oil filter, spark plugs, and fuel filter, all in this box. And we know it's going to fit your model because we chose it based on that. So we're going to break into this. That's different language. So just to give you guys some more there. And let's just zoom in one time on this part number, even though it might not work for your mower. There you go. So you can pause that if you want. On the table, also, when you bought your Ariens mower, it came with a Kawasaki engine manual, which is here, and it came with the drain tube. Now, this is super helpful when we're draining the oil because Kawasaki just makes engines, and these different manufacturers buy them and just set them on their chassis. So the drain plug doesn't always perfectly match up with a really good spot in the frame, and this one doesn't, and this is going to come in really handy. We're going to show you this. But I wanted to point out in the owner's manual real quick, I don't really love their terminology in here. It says to change the oil filter every 200 hours. That is way too long. Like, I think they're trying to sell you new engines. We would recommend every 50 hours on a service, or once a year if you're not using it that much. So please change it more. And on the other page here, it talked about the air filter. So if you're reading this, it says every 100 hours to change or clean the air filter. That needs to be done way sooner, and we're going to show you where and how to find that. Very easy to check, and we're going to give you the confidence at home to do that. So the rest of the stuff on the table is just our personal tool selection that we think works good. So we've got multiple catch tanks, some diverters, oil filter removal tool that makes it easy to spin the old filter off. Spark plug tools, this is going to be for the fuel clamps, and then these are so nice for when you're refilling the oil. I'll put a link. Amazon does sell the kits. We'll put a link to that in here, and we're going to put a link to where to get this. It's, again, Amazon, but it's a Motion Pro oil filler. So let's jump over here and check out this mower. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is give you a quick tutorial on where to find things. So the very first thing when you're doing this kit, right here, Kawasaki FR691V. That is the engine on this mower, and that's the kit that we bought based on that number. So very easy for you to find, right in the back. You don't have to go digging for it. It's not on these little part number bags or tags. It's literally just that one in the middle. And let's show you where some stuff is located, and then we're going to change it all. So right here is your air filter. Ta-da! How easy is that? And you can see we've already got some grass. Here we go. Perfect example. We've got some grass and stuff already showing up on this. And this mower only has 51 hours on it. So if you imagine if we waited another 50 hours to change this or check it, it's pretty plugged. And that's not helping the longevity of your mower. If we come down here, now this engine has 2 spark plugs in it. You can see the one right here, very easy to get to. We'll change that in a minute. The second spark plug is right there. Also, you can come straight in with a socket, no special tools. Now on some of these, this is where we were mentioning the oil being a little bit harder. So I'm going to tip the seat up out of the way. Here's our oil fill. Here's our drain. And then here's our oil filter. And you can see how I was mentioning that this drain is situated right on the frame bar. So we're going to use a hose to move that. And right here, the last thing two things. Right here's your battery. So you can maintain this all winter. It is a smaller battery. So if you let that sit in your cold shed all winter, probably going to struggle to start it in the spring. And the last thing is going to be the fuel filter location. So right there in the front. So let's jump into it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to start to drain the engine oil because that does take a while. So we're going to start the oil change process. We'll do the rest of it, and then we're going to finish up with the oil change because it can take like 30 minutes for that oil to drain. All right, guys, first part of this video, we're going to do an oil change. So our pan is nice. It's only like a 4-inch pan, and it still slides underneath. Even though these hydro drives are kind of low, we can slide that pan right in there. And that's going to give us a good spot to catch all this. So the next thing is we're going to grab the little tube that comes with the kit. We kind of showed that in our intro. And here's the tube. And we're going to lay this down in there it's going to go down this little channel. We're going to go right from there and straight down. So we'll get this in place and we'll come right back. So we opened the cap, got our tube inserted, we spun this free. You can see the oil draining out now, and we also loosen the oil cap on top. This is going to let air come in from the top of the engine and let the oil settle down and out. So this is what takes a while. You can see it's a slow moving process, so we're going to start the rest of the engine, or the rest of the service now. All right guys, we're going to do the oil filter next, and so we're going to put a bin underneath. It's got a little bit of like a metal catch you can see on the engine there to kind of shove the oil at least 2 inches out, but it's still going to make a mess. So we got a cool little plastic bin because there is quite a bit of oil in these. So here at the shop we got actual oil filter pliers that he's using to help spin them loose. They're really, you know, once you use those on the filter's never reusable, which you wouldn't want to use anyway, but you can see that oil, how cool that is. Good job. So hopefully the bin's big enough, we'll see, but it'll definitely help prevent any kind of extra overflow or spill. That way the customer, when they get home, they're not wondering where that oil came from. So yep, tip it upside down, drain right in there. And the cool thing is if you continually buy the OEM kits, the part number to that oil filter is going to be right on the oil filter. So we're going to let that drain for a few minutes and we'll put the new filter back on. All right guys, here's the filter we just pulled off, and you can see how the pliers really dent the side of that, and that's okay, we got to spin it off. But there's the part number on that, and here's the part number that came in the kit, matches perfectly. We'll get this thing installed. So what we always like to do is make sure that the surface is clean on the engine side, because you have all the grass and stuff flinging around from all the jobs you're doing. And so grass, as we unspin it, could kind of tip down and become where the oil filter seat is going to be. And what I'm talking about is this gasket on the outside. So we always clean it really well. That way when this sits on there, it's sitting flush on the engine and there's no debris in between this gasket and the engine case. As we apply this, we always put a little thin film of oil on here. That way it doesn't spin the gasket or hurt it. This lets the gasket set perfectly on the motor there. So now that that's oiled, we'll just spin the new oil filter right back on the engine. Just like all oil filters, we always spin them on by hand, and we just put them on by hand. Doesn't matter if it's your truck, your car, or your mower. Just a nice hand tight. That's all these need to be. So there you go, all set. Okay guys, so you can see we've got the filter spun back on, and we cleaned everything up. We were able to get a rag in there, wipe up any residue, pull our tray out for the filter. And as you can see, the line there coming out of the drain plug is pretty well done. So we let this drain for like 45 minutes. We did some other projects around the shop. And so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna end up removing that tube off the bottom. We did close, is this closed here by chance?
Not yet.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna close the valve before we remove the tube on that. And it's kind of cool. It's, you know, you can use like a crescent wrench or anything there on there. So get it snugged back up. That way no more oil does come out. You don't have to go too awfully tight on these. It's just a little plastic plug down there. And if you notice any extra oil coming out, you can just simply tighten a little bit more. So it's good to keep it clean down there. So yeah, just pop that off. And that's going to be removed. And all we're going to simply do is remove our drain pan, and we'll get ready to refill with oil. All we're going to redo is fill this with 2 quarts of oil. What we like to do is we're going to fill it with like 1.9 quarts. And then we're going to take this outside and we're going to run it, let it cool down, then we're going to top it off. So we just pulled a dipstick out of the channel there. So it just came out. And it's wiped off, and he can, yeah, go ahead and stick that all in there and start doing it. On the dipstick here, I just wanted to show, if I can get the focus, there's full. So it kind of shows you, you know, you have a nice little, like a buffer zone in there. So we're just going to fill this with 1.9 quarts of this Kawasaki motor oil. This is what came in the kit. We're going to dump this in there, and then we'll show you in the dipstick where it looks. What's nice about this funnel is if you did have an exact measurement you're going for, we know what we're doing with the 1.9 quarts, but you could have closed this valve off on it and used, if the quart didn't have like markers on it, and you could have measured out exactly what you wanted because it's got the markers on there. And it's got a nice long funnel at the bottom, and then you could open it and it would shoot it right down in there. So that's the nice thing about this funnel for doing multiple different jobs. Also with this funnel, if you want to get every little drop of oil out of those quart bottles, it's nice. It like fits the quart perfectly and it's super sturdy. It's super strong, you know, me tapping on it even. The strength of it, it's kind of cool. You can let it sit there and drain for a while if you wish. So as you can see, we've got one full quart completely empty, and then this is the second one. There's just over 100 cc's left in the bottle there. And so put the dipstick back in, then we can pull it back out and let's check it and see where it's sitting with that. And keep in mind that the oil filter is not full yet. So yeah, it's gonna show really full. Let me get that to focus, sorry. There it is. It's showing really full, and that's because the oil filter doesn't have any oil in it yet. So our suggestion at home, the next step would be to take this mower outside, let it run for 4 or 5 minutes, let it cool down, and then check your dipstick, and you're just gonna check it according to whatever it needs. If it needs more, if it doesn't need, it has that dipstick, it's gonna help you guys out. So that's the oil change procedure. Okay guys, let's change this air filter on this thing. So the first thing is we're just gonna pull up on those tabs, and there's our air filter. And so cool, look at that, it's toolless. You're not looking for a Phillips screwdriver or a regular screwdriver. That hose clamp has like a wing nut on it that you can get to with your hands. Just tip it up, rock it out. Look at how dirty that is in the bottom. That is why you gotta check this way more often. So let's see that thing. So the top of that was bad looking. Look at the bottom of it. You have like 40% restricted flow because inside of that element, not just on the outside. And then what we're gonna do real quick is we're gonna clean this out. So we wanna kind of plug the intake there. Yep, he's got his hand over it. And then we're just kind of cleaning that out, get all that grass out of there. Don't really need to air jazzer it because then you could potentially blow it into the intake, and we don't really want to do that. So that is a good way to clean it. Yeah, check that out. We thought the top wasn't great. The bottom is really bad. So now that we got the whole compartment cleaned out, we're just going to slide the new filter in there. You can kind of see it goes right into the hose. Nice and easy. Set it back down on its track. Make sure it's like parallel with the engine, which is nice. And then you just kind of take your wing nut on the side of the hose clamp there and tighten it back down. And then lastly, we just push down and you'll hear both sides clicking on the housing there. Yeah, just like that. All right, next thing we're gonna do is change the spark plugs. There's one on each side. We're gonna pop the cap on that. You'll hear it and feel it pop off right there. And this is a 13/16 and a nice little extension. This is like a 6-inch extension. Helps pull your hands and knuckles away from the framework. Keeps them nice and clean. And once you've got it broken loose, you can usually just spin it right out by hand like he's doing there. And there's our old spark plug coming out. Always a good idea to check the part number. Let's just double check everything. BPR4ES, fantastic, because the kit came with 2 new BPR4ESs. We'll put them in, and he's putting the new one in, but when you're setting these in there, this is like a crush washer on these. And so you'll feel it get tight, and then like a nice little, another like a quarter of a turn will help seat that spark plug, the crush washer. It's meant to be crushed down when you tighten that in there. So right there, he's just kind of going tight with it, kind of getting it worked in. Like another half a turn, perfect, nice and tight. The last thing is when you're putting this cap on, we're listening for a nice little, right, just like that, perfect. We want to make sure that the cap fully seats on the end of the spark plug there to make sure we have a good contact for the spark. Let's go do the other side. All right guys, so what we're gonna do now is change the fuel filter on this. And really quick, before we take it off, we're gonna mention the flow of fuel. So you can see this arrow going up, coming out of the tank toward the fuel pump into the motor. So just wanted to make note of that before we even do it. You can see that little arrow there. This is the new one. And look at, even with 50 hours, look at how discolored that thing is. So all right, Chris, let's do it. Go ahead and throw that in there. And these are just the absorbent rags that we use here at the shop. We try to keep everything super clean. That way when the customer gets home, there's hopefully no puddles or, you know, residue, I guess is a good word to look for. And so literally it's just a pair of pliers. We got the hose clamps on both sides. Kind of funny, they're a different style hose clamp, one on each side. And I would assume this is going to probably be a little sticky, so if you spin it back and forth on there a little bit, rock it, I'm sure it's hard to pull off of there because it's been on there forever. And there you go. And he's got a little bin under there to kind of catch that fuel, which is sweet. That way we're not making a mess. And then we got the new fuel filter ready to go right here. Slide on both ends, and you can see how, go ahead, you keep doing it. It kind of has a stop right there. It's going to fit all the way down to there. So being able to see the last portion of that fuel filter is okay. And so now he's just resliding the clamps back up to where they go. One on the top, one on the bottom. and that is a fuel filter change on your Ariens mower. All right, guys, thanks for watching. That was us here at 3C's Recreation doing a tune-up on an Ariens mower with a Kawasaki engine. If you guys found it helpful, please consider subscribing to our channel. We do a ton of stuff: power sports, ATVs, UTVs, dirt bikes, mowers. Enjoy the ride and see you on the trail.